All right. So this summary is going to maybe hopefully be accurate, maybe not, but we'll find out. All right. So last week when we had our voter skills training, there was some conversation about how do you address questions when you get people asking, why does my vote count? And then also the general voter apathy. And so I said, well, let's just meet again and get people together to start talking about, how we might answer that question. And and so I thought this would be the beginning of that. And we probably ought to, once we get through today, just drop back and figure out, do we want to do something like this, maybe on a regular basis for a couple of months and just gather everything together and publish sort of best tips and guide. I did do some searching I did some Google searches and got some suggestions also. And so I'm going to share my screen. And if you guys can all just jump in and add comments when you think about something that needs to be added to what we're doing. And I got to find where my PowerPoint is. There it is. So I throw everything in a PowerPoint slide. And so what's here, last Thursday, Roger and I went to a homeless shelter here. It's not really a shelter as much as it is a place where they feed people and provide computer access and assistance. And then one of the city of Huntsville's homeless facilities is a camp that they've set up down the street. And a lot of them come from there to this facility. And so we do voter services once every couple of months. And this month we changed how we were doing it, is really to have a conversation about voting and why it matters. And so we put this out there as a list. I created this list through a Google search and trying to understand the issues that affect people who are homeless. And so this was the list that I put out there. And then I talked to the folks in the room and I said, this is a list that I think is the issues that people who are unhoused care about, that really are related to voting. And we started talking about why and how it relates to voting. And I said, is there anything else that we really, need to add to this list? And we got off into a conversation about civic engagement at that point, which I thought was kind of interesting because at the end of it, oops, I didn't mean to slip. There we go. At the end of the conversation that we had, I was having with the people in the room who were homeless, they started telling me about decisions that had been made by. I'm sorry, Catherine, I'm not here. I can't hear you, what you just said. I mean, you aren't on mute. I couldn't understand you.
Kathy?
Yes. Am I frozen, or was it because I saw static on your screen, Catherine?
Kathy, you're clear.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems like, Catherine, your face, everything's moving sort of like you've got a connection issue, I think. If you want to type what you were trying to say in the chat. And am I good? Trinette, you said you could hear me? Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna go back then and share. So I thought the thing that really struck me, what I was saying, Trinette, and people who just joined us, is I was speaking to a room full of people who are unhoused. And I was, instead of just going in there and just telling them all about how the normal voter registration process worked, I was trying to really talk about the things that would appeal or might affect them, as far as, like transportation to the polls. And one of the things we talked about were some of the reasons that, some of the things that matter to the unhoused. And we got into what I thought was a really powerful conversation. And then I thought, wasn't prepared for what I got. because they started talking to me about, um, the governor, basically saying that people who are unhoused are criminals, and how they were getting picked up for laying around on, if they laid down somewhere, the police would stop and pick them up. And then they would start they told me about how their camp, they've already been told that their camp was going to be torn out in a year, and that they needed to be looking for somewhere else to live. And they'd already been moved to this spot because from another spot that they had. And there were a lot of conversations like that. And also they started telling me about the number of people who have dementia, who are getting older in the camps, and they're elbow to elbow. They said, we're crammed in here with rapists and basically people who are not good people. And you've got people who have dementia. And I was talking to them about, the fact that one of the things that they really need to do is find a way to get organized. And that is difficult. I'm sitting there listening to them talk. I just knew that, my asking that question, it's like they told me their concerns. And we talked about how it really matters to let your elected leaders show up. And then they wanted to actually say, when can we go talk to the mayor? And so I think when we're talking about mobilizing the vote, in this situation with the unhoused, they're especially vulnerable. And yet their needs matter to all of us. And, it's in, what we're seeing is in inhumanity, not being humane. But I also thought that this conversation, when we got down to transportation, they said they tried to go vote, but they couldn't get to the polls. And so those are kind of conversations to me that are like multi-level conversations. So when we start talking about how do we help people vote, I think the barriers are a big part of the problem, but there's also a lot of conversations that need to happen. Like, we need to look at this community and say, what are the issues that are affecting them, and maybe start folding that into some of our candidate forums. We need to figure out how can we get some of the people who are unhoused to actually come to these candidate forums and carry the issues back. I mean, this is a big problem. I mean, because they're not connected in. They don't necessarily have a voice at all. And I don't think a lot of people understand the issues that are affecting them. And I will say that was an eye-opener for me. I'll stop there for just a minute, and I've got two other categories, but I just wanted to see, what do you think? I mean, how can we help to help this group vote? Why should I vote, and why does my vote matter? I think they understand that, but at least the people I talked to did.
Now, is there, I know in Dothan they have the housing development community, and they receive funds because I think it was Amazon who gave them funds to address the homeless population, even though it wasn't enough in order to do anything for the big number of them, but at least it's something, and it's something that they're looking at.
Yeah, I got the impression that there was budget cuts coming to all of them based on what's happening at the federal level, that the money is not flowing like it used to. And then also with the anti-DEI and also the other laws that have been passed at the state level, then they're also getting penalized for just living, being in your community. And I guess I'm thinking this is probably the same issue that affects it's the same issue probably across the state. Probably a bigger issue maybe in bigger cities.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, is your microphone working now?
I think so. I couldn't hear you very well. It was all distorted, but now I can hear you again.
Yeah.
Fine. So
yeah. Okay.
So, Kathy, where do they vote and how do they know where they vote,
Well,
first of
so
all?
there are there's at least two different polling places that I know that the people in that part of the city would vote at. Um, the one, they what they do is in this on the voter registration form, when you're homeless, you put where you sleep, like literally where you sleep on the voter registration form, and the registrar will assign your polling place based on that. No matter, even if you're out in a field somewhere, if you can say I live right here, um, then that's how your polling place gets assigned. And then one thing I find really good here, and I don't know how it is across the rest of the state, but the homeless shelter that we were at has made an exception for all people who are homeless that want to use their mailing address for election mail, can get their voter cards there at the at that at their office. And so that's not typically, they in the past they had told us that only their clients could get it, but now they've opened it up. So, and that's the thing that we probably ought to talk to each community that we're involved in, is to work an agreement with one or more of the homeless shelters to let them become sort of an election voter card, so it gets delivered to that location. But their voting place depends on where they're at.
What about IDs? What do they use for IDs and how does
Well,
that work?
so this is where it gets kind of interesting, because the folks at First Stop will help their clients get a voter ID, like a non-driver ID. If they get a free voter ID card, this is one of the reasons the Secretary of State got upset with the league, is because some of our members were pushing back on the fact that the free voter ID requires an address on it, and none of a current address. And so that to me is a problem if you want to just say get a free voter ID. And so in this situation with this First Stop, they're actually helping people get their non-driver ID. There's another group here locally that can help. It's a homeless coalition that can help people get their birth certificate if they need it for some reason. One of the things this is sort of off topic, but it's related. The director of First Stop was showing me an example of a driver's license for people who are unhoused, and Aaliyah has started marking the driver's license as homeless. And so that's a real problem for people who want to get a job, or, if they present their ID, they've got basically a mark, which, is, it's not right to be. I mean, it's not fair. It hurts the individual that they are now being designated as homeless by Aaliyah. But that's the voter ID that they would have. And another question is, is there an option for them to vote absentee? And I started asking that question to some folks that are with the ACLU folks, to see what they thought. And right now, I guess there's no excuse that just explicitly says if you're homeless, you can vote absentee. If you can't make it to your polling place on foot, then it seems like that would be a reason you could vote absentee, but it's not listed as an excuse. I guess talking about how do you talk to people who are homeless, I know this are unhoused, I guess is the better term, but I think those excuses that I list are those reasons that I listed in that chart that I showed you, really sparked an important conversation. And I can show you, I went and did some Google search for low income and also young people. And I think if we came up with a list of things related to each group, and then maybe talk about, how do we have this conversation? But I think having this conversation is not telling them why their vote, why they should vote, as much as it is to get their feedback, because I know my daughter doesn't like me telling her anything. So I think in every case we're going to have to just say, this is what we've got. What do you think? What's your feedback? I'll show you this other one. And just pipe up when you want to add something, because I'm just showing you what I've got. So when I did a Google search for low income, this statement here, it says, I'll read it. It says, for low income individuals, voting is a powerful tool to influence policies that directly impact your daily life, such as housing, wages, and healthcare, and to empower your community. While it is easy to feel that your vote doesn't matter, your participation is critical to ensuring elected officials prioritize the needs of low-income families. And then this was from a group called it's a low-income housing coalition, and it gave these reasons why your vote matters. And it's kind of similar to what we saw before. But I kind of think we need something that would really spark a conversation about low-income communities and why they need to show up and vote. And this next thing this is all AI search, and there were some links that I marked where this came from, like affordable housing, financial stability, fair wages, healthcare access, and education. And then it says, yes, your vote matters. And it talks about, local races affect your lives more than a lot of other levels, more than higher level races. And you can have a measurable impact in the outcome. You build community power. And then they talked about the historical perspective of the fact that the right to vote was not guaranteed for all Americans, and including low-income individuals, have in the past been met with discrimination and making it difficult to vote. And then they had some examples really targeted to low-income individuals about what to do if you face barriers to voting. And then the next one was young voters. But if you want to stop, we can talk about low-income, some of the things that, what are some of the ways we can appeal to people in low-income situations?
Well, I have talking points for young people. And the thing is, in our community, they fall into both categories, young and low income.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be beneficial for both categories.
Yeah, so we blend those together. Mm-hmm. And I think right now, all I've done is like a Google search. That first page, I had gone in and used it to talk from, but I kind of think we need the same kind of thing, and maybe even some talking points for the person presenting it.
I have a list of talking points I can share.
That'd be great.
So are we thinking that these would be talking points to use where? And are we trying to do messaging for social media as well? Kind of what's our target here?
Well,
as we're thinking about it.
So I'll tell you, this was something that came up in the conversation last week as a need that other groups are working to come up with, ways that we can incentivize and overcome the low voter turnout. And so I think it would be all of the above, Kim. I'm thinking it would be something you'd use when you're going out into community to talk to people. We could also develop social media messaging. I actually, based on my experience last week, I started realizing this is not a one and done. I mean, when you start down this path, you're basically, you need to build relationships. If you're going to really and truly mobilize the vote, we have got to have a conversation, get them talking to us. But then when they tell us what their issue is, somehow we've got to help them overcome those barriers. And that, with our resources alone, I don't think the league could do it by ourselves. I just don't see it.
Well, I have a event set up for next week with the high school. I want to talk to the principal,
Mhm.
and it's going to be a coalition. It's going to be the League of Women Voters, D9, the Masonic Temple, and Black Women's Roundtable. We're
Mhm.
all going to come together and be there for listening sessions, but also we have the talking points, and then plus register them to vote. And it's going to be an ongoing process because when I talk to the principal, that's something that he really wants to emphasize to start them to thinking about being a part of the election process.
Well,
Trinette,
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Trinette, this is Catherine.
Mhm.
I love I can see 1 through 6.
Oh,
And
okay, there we go.
I wonder if you could expand so we could see all 10 of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Look really good to me.
okay.
Okay, I can see 1 through 7.
Okay, I'm getting ready to put it into, well, I can put it into 2 pages if I can.
Okay.
Mhm. Nope, that's not it.
I think it's under view, but I'm not sure. I think you can.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
There we go.
it takes a village.
Okay. These are wonderful.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And-
These are things is your team using this as they go in as a guide?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then also what we want to do is create a youth team and getting them actively involved in getting the information to them, and then having them go talk to their peers and encouraging them to vote, and then have them lead these sessions.
So are they high school students?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I had thought about what I would really like to do is to get some college students that are really wanting to be civically engaged, and basically work with them to help to go with us into high schools to be
Mhm.
more of a almost like peer, a little bit older, and to have conversations with a group of young people in the high school students and basically representatives, and just have this conversation so that the people in the school can listen to their peers having this conversation, and do it on a regular basis, not just a one time deal, but almost like having a college student be a mentor to this class and come in and have these types of conversations. And then, like what you were saying, then those people who are participating would be, they could then go from there and talk to the students, further. But I like what you're saying, and this list this list definitely gives you a roadmap.
Well, what started it, we had gone to the community college to do voter registration, and a lot of them had said that they didn't vote. So that's what prompted me to start to say, okay, let's look at some reasons why they don't vote. So we're supposed to go back to meet with the Black Student Union at one of the community colleges and start and get them mobilized, and then have them start working with their peers, and then hopefully get them going with the high school.
That'd be awesome.
This is Greta. I was
Greta.
trying to ask. I'm driving, so I can't take a screenshot of your document. But I was wondering if you could share the link, or if afterwards you could
I'll send it out.
Send it to us.
Mhm.
And then I also wanted to say that I'm in Lee County, and we did some canvassing for the Opelika municipal elections this year. And what you're saying, this entire conversation is what we met up with. People have been registered for 50 years and never voted once. Now, that one was astounding. Then we do have our NAACP Youth Council on Auburn University, and they're looking for what I think is in your document right now, talking points for youth and the unemployed. A lot of people lost their jobs with that Doge. They're like, right now I need to pay my bill. I'm not interested in voting.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can come up with something, to get them to understand that it's the municipal people who determine jobs that come into your area. Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, this is, I think, Greta, this is definitely going to be a useful tool. I think the thing we've also got to think about is how do we keep this conversation going? Because it's not something we can do like now in the fall of 25 and actually have it turn into people actually walking to the polls or driving to the polls in 26. And that to me that's another whole nother conversation. It's like, what is it that would keep that going? And is there a way to build, where people are actually, instead of us telling them, how do we get them to basically start taking control of their life and see it as this is a priority?
I think we were kind of thinking like every quarter we would have some kind of community where the people are.
Mm-hmm.
Have some food and do conversations about the importance or what are your issues, that kind of a thing. We do have to make it 365 24/7 kind of deal.
Yes. So Trinette, if you'll send that to me, I'll follow the people on this call who registered. And I think, this is sort of a work in progress. We need to figure out how do we make this into a packet that somebody can help mobilize the vote. And that even if it's not complete, which I don't think every community is going to figure this out
right
differently, but at least we'll give something that would help people think about. And also we really and truly, the partnerships that you talked about, Trinette, is going to be critical because, we don't have enough people in our own organizations to do it by ourselves. And we don't have the connections either. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go.
Can I add also about incentives to get people to come? Maybe $25 or $20 Visa cards, the first 10 or 15, 20 people who show up, and they can't really get it until after they sign after the event, and also surveys to actually see what the people are really feel and think.
Yeah, you're talking about getting them there to actually start hearing and talking and
yes.
That things like that, anything that we could think about as far as how it would, how do we turn this into something where we are making connections with people we haven't talked to in the past. Yeah, good idea. Good. Thank you, Ira. Trinette, were you about to say something else, or I can't tell who said that?
Yeah. I know you're in North Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Now Black Women's Roundtable has a consortium, Birmingham and North Alabama, so I can get you to contact there. And they have a large youth group also. So, and the convener for that group is also a councilwoman. So she would be a great contact in order to help get this together so I can make that introduction.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And Christian, you're in Huntsville too, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So we need to connect. So Kim or Nancy or trying to think who hadn't. Did you guys want to add anything to this? And I'm going to just show real quickly the what I found for the youth. Trinette, I kind of think it's interesting going and doing Google searches. I know this is kind of like not like going to the library and doing your research, but it has some interesting. There's so this statement here, I'll read it again. It says, your vote matters because it influences policies, amplifies your voice in both local and national issues, contributes to the future direction of society. And while it may feel like one vote is insignificant, the collective power of young voters can be transformative. Many of the most pressing issues for your generation, like climate change, student debt, and affordable housing, are decided by elected officials. That is, to me, that is AI, but I thought if we could make that into something that would at least give us an opening in a conversation. And then it talks about real world consequences, such as student debt, education funding, climate change, affordable housing, healthcare, and then collective power shapes the future. And it talks about even though your individual vote doesn't guarantee that the outcome that you want is going to happen, the collective vote with their peers has tremendous influences, and it includes like shifting priorities, power in numbers, amplifying marginalized voices. And Trinette, that kind of pulls in what you were talking about, the young people who are also low income. You know, I think these talking points that they have that I pulled up are actually kind of interesting because they're different depending on who you're talking to. And this one also really emphasizes that local elections can have an outsized impact. And it talks about the higher voter impact, you know, for city council and school board. And so even a single vote makes a lot bigger difference than it does in a presidential election. The community decisions are often affected by the local officials, including public safety, transportation, and school curriculum. And I could add libraries. I mean, you see that in county commissions. And long-term change this is how you start making long-term change, is through what's happening at the local elections. And then they had some overcoming barriers to voting, focusing on young people. And it says that young people really want to focus on the issues, not just the candidates. And it talks, you know, what you're talking about, Trinette, with listening to them on what the issues they care about are. Also educate yourself on the process. And that's where I think we're really good at understanding the process, but, you know, making that where people, you know, hear it and then apply it, I think is going to be, you know, that's the sort of the traditional, what we always want to talk about is the process. But the mobilizing voters is going to require us to get more into why people should show up and vote, and what is it that they care about, and what are the barriers. And that was what I'd found so far. And I actually think there may be, let me see if I can stop share. There's probably some other demographics we need to pull on as well. You know, I know there are, but for right now, I mean, what do you guys think? Where do you think we should go with this as far as creating something that might be useful? And Kim, I don't know if I answered the question about what it's for, but I think right now we're just trying to start getting some messaging so that we'll have something to use.
Kathy, this is Nancy.
Yes.
Sorry, and I'm not able to speak. I am not normally as challenged on my phone to get into a Zoom as I have been today. I don't know why, but anyway, I don't think there's much I can say, especially not in the topic you're talking about right now, but I have to get out of the call for something I'm committed to doing in a few minutes. But I did want to say I'd love to have the opportunity to meet the others on this call. I think other than yourself, Kathy, even though I didn't manage to be useful to you last week, but I would love to. Birmingham, the size of the city. Yes, there are a few things that you talked about early on, like places that allow those who are unhoused to use a mailing address. That's, I'm sure it's not fully covered, but it, it's something that's been dealt with for a long time. But what I'm aware of is that there's really, I don't know that the league is a part of a group that's really trying to do a variety of things to help the unsheltered, the young, and all of those topics. So I think the best I can say is thank you for letting me speak for these minutes, because earlier I couldn't get I couldn't get in, and I hope to be a part of some of this conversation and at some point in the future, and that it might also include some maybe additional groups if that's useful. So
yeah, you've had the reason I called you is because I knew you had a background with working in the
yes.
firehouse. Is it the firehouse shelter?
It is, yes, right, which is where I am right now. And the only the only service I provide is a couple of times a week, something that's about the time for that piece is right now, just offering some reading glasses. But yes, I do, and that did make sense when you communicated with me last week. So I'm certainly interested, and I am part of those in the Birmingham area who do voter registration, and especially offer the resources for helping people to restore their vote, if that's possible, or to know what their status is. So I hope that maybe we could be part of something, some more than that. But I don't know who the others, even in the league, who can offer more than they're offering now, and that probably includes me.
Well, and we do have a network of people doing voter rights restoration, and that would be part of, if we find someone that needs rights restoration. Just last week, I helped an individual at First Stop, and he had never lost his voting rights. I mean, he basically
thought
he had, and he was in his 50s. So,
that's right. Yes, I'm sure you can plug in with those two things. And when I heard you say, yes, once you kind of stepped into this and asked people what their concerns are, and that group you had been speaking with, I guess, were largely unsheltered or entirely. Yes, you don't really step back out. So I'm not offering Birmingham area people to step into that much deeper, wider. But I'm glad that some groups are able to be touching it and working on it. So,
well,
thank
you. I appreciate your feedback, and we'll be talking again.
Yeah, good. Thank you to all, and I look forward to meeting the others on this call and for letting me to speak for a few minutes.
Thank you,
yes.
Nancy.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Ira, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. I was going to ask, I like the information because we had planned in going into like maybe the different housing authority areas and having something there, and that would be good information to start off with. But I was just wondering if AI could break it down, even the language, the vocabulary, even lower.
I expect that it could. I have just scratched the surface.
Okay.
know? And I'm also don't know really what I'm doing. So I saw where there was a deep AI dive that I could take, and I did not push that button. So
Okay. Okay. But yeah, I think it would be
I
very
might hit the
helpful.
button and see where it
Oh,
takes me.
I can
yes.
help her with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. But it would
Mm,
be very helpful if you
yeah,
did send, information out like that
Yeah,
to the,
that was
yeah, I
just
can
a
help you.
pretty quick search. I mean, but I did on each one of them. It's interesting. They gave that summary with a bunch of links to where they got it from, and then it said deeper dive. And I think Trinette, let's talk after, and we'll figure
Mhm,
out how to make it into language that would actually, be something that you would be interested in showing someone.
mhm.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ira, where are you at?
I'm in Tuskegee, Alabama. I'm with the Tuskegee Macon County NAACP branch.
Awesome. Okay, great. That's good.
I'm political action chair, so I hop on all of your videos and calls and listen and learn.
Well, you know what? We'd love to find out how to work together because it's just
Definitely.
so important it's important for us to all start working, figure out how we can work together to try to
Yes,
improve the turnout.
we must.
Mhm. All
And
right.
Kathy, I was thinking another group, the single parents. That that's a whole focus group there because they have issues that really concern them as far as housing and daycare and
Mhm.
healthcare and all of that.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I was listening to somebody that we can stress the humanity, the human part. And that's one thing when we're talking to candidates, let them know, do you do you see your constituents? How do you see them?
Yeah, when I was listening to them talk, it it really struck me that when we do candidate forums, we need to be very deliberate about bringing in questions that draw out their positions, and you know so that it's not, when we say, do they meet your concerns, if we're not asking questions that get them to actually answer the question,
Mm,
not a hot button issue, but just more like, what do you plan to do about helping to, all the unhoused community so that they don't basically have nothing, nowhere to sleep. They can't even, crawl under a bush without having someone come, arrest them.
right.
And that's a tough question. I mean, somehow that is with the lack of funds in the state, it is a really tough question. But then if you connect that also to the fact that they're wanting to give tax refunds and tax breaks to all these, all the people in the state, instead of using the funds to help the people who don't have enough, that says a lot. And that's the humanity that you're talking about.
Right.
And Kathy, also, they have to worry about now people hurting them because now, the rhetoric is out there about homeless people need to be executed. That's a lot. And we have a lot of veterans who are homeless people.
Yep.
So we it's a tough situation going on.
Yeah,
So that
I
so
think
that's why we need to build relationships and keep going back to them and talking to them and listening and letting them know that we are here in order to try to help.
and bringing this cross organizational relationships too, not just us going in and talking to each group.
Right.
Everyone needs to know what the other people are dealing with. Catherine?
Well, it strikes me that when we ask people what their issues are, and they tell us what their issues are, and then we say, okay, so go vote. How do they make the connection between their voting, the voting that they do, and the policies that they're voting for. So are we doing this on Vote 411? Are we making sure that we present the information in such a way that it's clear to people if they go there, whom they should vote for?
That is, we don't tell people who they should vote for. But I mean, I'm just saying on Vote 411, we can't even give our, like for ballot amendments on Vote 411.
What I'm saying is, what are their policies on these things? That's how they would decide whom they're going to vote for. So we would present the policies, right? Wouldn't we?
Well, how do
claim
they?
Well, it could be in how we asked, in the questions that we ask, because
Yeah.
there's that section where you ask candidates questions and they're
Uh-huh.
supposed to answer them. And
Right.
some do and some don't. So
Mhm.
I think that's probably where we could address some of that,
Mhm.
is
To me,
crafting the
that's-
right questions.
Okay, because to
Yeah.
me, that's the big disconnect. You can talk about your issues all you want, but if you don't really know who is going to, pass legislation that supports your issues, how do you know how to vote?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a tremendous dilemma, which I face. So, yeah.
Well, it is, we do need to connect the issues that people care about to voting, but also it's more than just voting. It's the whole civic engagement.
Right.
It's the showing up to city council. It's the writing the letters. It's the getting the people to come to them. Like bringing the mayor down to the homeless community. Why should they all have to figure out how to get to the city hall? But Ira, you had your hand up.
Okay. So, with the NAACP in Tuskegee, Macon County, we're planning on trying to go out and educate the young to the old who about we're going to educate them through with the history and of what has gone on, because what has happened is, I know for the at least 20 to 25 years they have not been emphasizing history, teaching history in most schools, and I know in the black belt schools. And they really, all they know is Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and basically that's it. They have no idea of how the government is set up, why you vote, nothing. They don't even have to learn the preamble, things that we had to learn when we were coming through school.
Yeah.
So they have to really, and we're talking about the children, that no child left behind. They were all left behind, basically.
Yeah.
So we have to go back and re-educate. And that's from the mamas, maybe some of the grandmamas, and try to explain to them, teach them the importance and the power of voting. And everything you said on here, that's what we have to go back. So that answers the young lady's question about the education part. So that's what we're going to try to do. Hopefully, if we get this grant, and educate, and I think also Lee County will be doing the same thing. So we're going to try to make sure we're all doing the same thing throughout the state with the education part.
That's awesome. I was going to ask also, listening to this conversation, civic engagement to me is the part where it's not just pointing toward November. It's the getting people to start understanding what,
Yes.
what talking to their elected leaders and understanding how government works, but also the fact that it's up to them to be the squeaky wheel.
Mhm.
Kim, are you talking? Oh, you're not. She's not. But I was thinking that maybe what we ought to do is also, in addition to teaching the history, is to start having like community meetings where we bring people together throughout the year to start, instead of waiting to do a candidate forum, why don't we have, issue forums where we get some of these elected leaders to come in and make them understand that this may not be real pleasant sometimes if people have problems, but this is not my city councilwoman having a community meeting and telling me what she wants me to hear, but to actually have a meeting where they're there to listen and the community's bringing basically we talk about some particular thing like the homeless community and what their concerns are, and they're going to be there to listen. And maybe some others like these other categories, demographics. Greta, you have your hand up.
Yes, this is back to the 411 question previously posed. Is it possible to, and I know we can't endorse candidates or anything, but is there any way to link the question? I need, housing or whatever, and then say who decides this? Sorry.
What was that?
It said there are police reported ahead. I'm driving.
Slow down.
Yeah, really. Oh, shoot. Let me put this phone down, too.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. Can we link the titles that your mayor decides this, the city council decides this, so again, we're not endorsing a candidate, but we're saying voting for these people impacts this question that you have.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. I'll tell you, the thing that we could do is we have what we call a white page now instead of the traditional vote411.org. It's something that belongs to the state league. We pay money to get it. And what that means is that we could put some additional links on the page that, for example, if we were to say, here's what, here's an issue, unhoused community, and these are the issues, who is it that decides these issues?
Yes,
and that's more like a sort of a generic for that particular position. What kinds of things do they affect? Mm-hmm. And the thing and this is where the league is resource limited. We don't have, we're all volunteers. So it's like developing this material, we got to be very conscious and say, we're going to do this, and then find our folks that will do that for us. But I really like the idea of creating something that is, sort of helps people understand, like, what's the Secretary of State's job, for example. What do we expect? And, not what that candidate, just how bad they are or how good they are, but, what's their job? And you need to hold them accountable. And then then they can go read the answers that the Secretary of State candidates answer, or the questions that we pose to them about their job. And maybe the questions need to be reframed a little bit based on not a little bit. We need to reframe the questions based on what we're trying to get them to focus on. Ira, I saw your hand was up. You're on mute, Ira. I'm not sure if
I have
I'm sorry. My mute was on. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I think the Democratic Party, maybe Republican Party also, usually has a sheet of, like, one side what the Democratic stands for, and on the other side what the Republicans stand for. And that was one of the sheets that we used to go into the schools and ask the students, who in this room gets anything has Medicare or Medicaid? Are in your family member, friends, know anybody? Okay, so this party says this party, because we're nonpartisan also. But you can talk about, like you say, the issues. So I think they have one that you can get with the different issues for each party.
Well, that could be part of a conversation. I think that the thing that's going to be interesting is if you've got a limited amount of time, where do you start when you're trying to go in there and have these conversations? Because that sounds like a conversation to have in a classroom about how do you analyze what they're really telling you versus what you hear on the news.
panels. That would be good to have like a panel with students.
Well, and that gets, and I'm really bad. I apologize for getting off on a tangent, but one of the things that the advocacy committee that we have does is they analyze bills to say what's the impact of this bill. And so I think what you're talking about is almost like critical thinking, as far as, you see
Yeah.
the language, but you actually need to think about what they're really saying. And that to me would be sort of the ultimate goal, is to have people able to recognize, what really is meeting their needs, not just what some candidate, says in a political answer. Catherine?
I have a question for the people on the call
Mhm.
in different groups. How many of you have people in your groups who would actually be willing to call up the offices of their representatives and say what they were concerned about, and lobby for something to be done about it?
Well, Catherine, I have written letters and made calls, and I get the canned answer all the time because my representative does not look at the humanity of people.
Yeah, that's a kind way to put it, Trinette.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
mentioned that because I've heard from a couple of people, like a political operative, a lobbyist whose judgment I trust about this, that when we call their offices and say, here are my concerns, whoever answers the phone takes them down and reports them to the senator or the congressman or whoever. So, and that they pay attention to that because it's an indication of, okay, you're saying no, Trinette? Okay.
Not in my area.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to pull on, Catherine. We need to think
Mhm.
about that some more. I have a comment, but I'm gonna go to Ira first.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to let her know that the NAACP, the state, we every Monday and Tuesday we meet on issues and we write letters to all the senators, state senators and governors, and we make phone calls. This has been going on for, I know, at least 6 or 7 months now.
Okay.
So we do that every week.
So we have a Take Action Tuesday with
Mhm.
the Alabama League, and we send it out to everybody that's on our mailing list. And we have, like, on Tuesday during the legislative session with specific actions, and it's limited on on federal actions, but it's really focused on the state actions. And so I think what it's sort of like we're maybe sort of not doing what the state NAACP is doing as much as focusing down. But yeah, and I think there's definitely, it would be nice to get people in the habit of once a week reaching out to their federal and their state. Although I will tell you, I'm so tired of reaching out to Tuberville's office because when I do that, the woman I talk to argues with me. So,
You get a person? I always get a recording.
well, I call around until she answers.
Well, I call every
Tired of
weekday.
me.
I
What's
call
that?
all three of mine every single weekday with 3 points. So they know me.
With what? With your
Now,
what?
what we really need somebody in the office at talking to them. We need to get together and go as a group. Not only the calling, but we need to be up at the Capitol, in their office, handing them these papers and explaining to them why they need not to support these. This is what we need to do as a group.
I
Yeah.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
That
So
would be good. I went to DC with a group, a large group. and we were supposed to see Katie Britt. Her aide came down, and he was going to take us to her. We had the tour of the House, the Senate. He took us all around everywhere. We never did see her. He
Oh
he
my
did
God.
the great distraction.
Mhm. Yeah.
Man.
So I was going to tell you, and all of this kind of comes right back to what we're talking about. You know, it all relates to how do we get people to show up and vote? Because the more you get involved in trying to communicate your concerns to these guys, you realize you know this is going to take more than you can't just show up to vote. It's about civic engagement. But I was going to tell you my city councilwoman, she knows me because I've got a local train which has not come through right now, but whenever I'm typically on a Zoom, it comes through and lays on the horn right when it goes by my house. And I've talked to her about that because I'm really tired of it because it's not a through train, it's just they're storing cars down by the river. And she knows who I am. And so I signed a petition that came through from a workers group about they were going to put AI cameras on these garbage trucks in Huntsville. And so, you know, I don't care for coming through my neighborhood with a garbage truck with AI cameras that could do facial recognition. It could be doing a lot of stuff. And so I signed this petition, but it was interesting because I had this relationship, you know, such as it was with her. She sent me an email and says, Kathy, I've gotten 4 letters today on this AI garbage truck cameras. And it's like, what is your reason? Why do you not like it? And I kind of felt like she might be wanting to put me on the spot. But I went in and I researched and I wrote her a note telling her exactly why I thought this was not a good idea. And she came back. We talked a couple of different times about the cameras, and you know, and other people were pushing also. But it was just kind of interesting that she actually reached out to me and wanted to understand what my issues were, because the canned letter, she just, you know, I don't think these petitions that we're signing mean anything. They're not only thing they do is they'll say I got 4 of them. But I kind of think when we start talking to folks about getting involved, you know, having this relationship by you coming in and talking to them on a regular basis, then when you have a concern, then they're going to actually know who you are, you know, not just one more petition that I got from somebody that I have never seen, never met. And so I think if we could make that as a part of when we start talking to people about why does your vote matter, it's not just your vote, it's the getting to know your leaders. I'm not sure who dropped. I think that was Catherine. But I think we're over an hour. But you guys, do you feel like we've covered enough ground today? Do we need to? I'm gonna take what we did today and I'll share the video. But and Trinette, if you'll send me the chart that you had, and then I'll send those charts that I did, which are really just sort of AI stuff, except for the first chart, which was mine, but on the unhoused. And then I'd like for us to continue this.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Do you guys, Ira and Greta and Christian, I guess, it seems like all of the 3 of you are all with NAACP. Is that correct?
I am.
Okay, Ira, Christian.
And I am, yes.
Yeah. And Greta, are you also? She's probably trying to get down the road without the police. I hope you made it.
Will you all be coming to the NAACP state conference this weekend?
That's the one in Tuscaloosa?
Yes.
I'm not going to be able to make it, but I was thinking that and that I would love to. I was actually at the one they had last year in Huntsville. But
I
what I was
remember. I remember.
yeah, I was just
Greta,
Greta.
yeah, Greta will be there, and Greta is also part of the D9.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I was just thinking that I would like for us to maybe, if you guys are amenable, that we could just kind of have a focus group to create something that would be a handout or a toolkit for the different demographics. I don't, maybe have a league and a NAACP. And if the D9, do you think the D9 would want to be, there may be different groups that want to kind of co-sponsor this, but just wonder what you guys think. Trinette, you're part of you're also part of these different
D9, yes.
D9. Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think we should, instead of just throwing this out as a regular training class, conversation with, I was thinking more of a focused working group to get something that we could then do as a program, maybe to present to later on as a educational forum.
I think that'd be good.
I do too.
Yeah, because
it would be worthwhile. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Because
And
some people think we're out here by ourselves. Nobody else is doing anything. So they'll see that there's other people who's thinking the same thing.
Okay.
And each group has a political action chair, don't they?
Well, the league is a little bit different. I mean, we have an advocacy director and a lobby corps, but we do our advocacy on our C4 side of the house, which is what you're talking about. I'm on the C3 side of the house, focused on voter services, and we've got the league. This is this year. One of the things we're always wanting to try to figure out how to improve voter turnout, but this year especially, we're trying to crack the nut of how do we get people to actually show up, and that's different than voter registration. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah.
So you did D9. Did they have political action? Okay. So is there someone else we need to pull into this as far as the, I guess, Ira, you're in Tuskegee, Greta's in Lee County, Christian, you're here in Madison, and Trinette, you're down in Houston, or I know you're in
Houston, Henry, the Wiregrass area.
Yeah. Is there someone else we need to pull into this conversation right now, or do you think this is and we have Catherine and Kim and Nancy, but I'm just thinking, is there someone else that you
we can pull in Iona Martin from Dallas County?
Iona Martin? Okay. Yeah, there may be some people in these other leagues that I'm going to pull in.
I think Mobile.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
I think Letitia Smith from Lee County would be good to come in too.
Letitia Smith. Now, where is she at?
Lee County. She's the president there for the NAACP.
Okay. I don't know if I've got her. I don't know if I've got her contact, and I kind of think I might have Iona's, but Dallas County. Okay. All right. And so there'll be a few more on the league side. I'm just feeling very sure. But I think that this will be a good project. And if we can get this worked out in the next couple of months, then, have something that is ready to do a program like in January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because next year, definitely we want to get some things in order, because next year is a go year. We got to.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, there's things we're going to already be using in our own communities, but as far as trying to, and also just to tell you, I'm working on, I would like to have some community events too. And if we want to try to, think about how what we're doing here could fold into something that might help. Maybe it's not the only thing, but it would be a part of like having events like in Lee County and in Macon County and other place in Henry or
Montgomery.
Montgomery. Yeah.
Mm.
So, all right. Well, we'll be in touch, and I really appreciate the conversation.
Okay. Kathy, what you want to get together in order to do some prompt before we can do some new prompts in order to get the information off of AI?
Let's if you want to give me your schedule for this week or rest of this week, or
okay, I will.
My schedule is if you'll tell me what works for you, then I'll look at my calendar.
Okay, because I think Tuesday
Wednesday looks good.
Let's see here.
Tuesday, I've got something.
Tuesday's out.
Yeah, Tuesday we've got several things with the elections.
Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday look good.
Okay. All right. How about we do Wednesday morning?
Okay. What time?
Do you want to do 9 o'clock?
Okay, that'll be good.
All right. I'll send you a Zoom. Jump on. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll send this to you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.